Welcome back to Girl in a Hurry, the Shelley Bush story. I'm your host, Ellen Angelico. In episode 3, we took the journey with Shelley from post office employee to band leader. Now, we're going to try and make it from band leader to superstar. Shelley was a beautiful woman, no question about it. She had long blonde hair and a warm smile, looking every bit the part of the girl next door. On top of that, she was phenomenally talented and had a rippin' all-girl band. There was something else about Shelley that was getting noticed too. I asked Layla Vartanian, the owner of Layla's Bluegrass Inn, where Shelley played so many shows, what her first impressions were when she met Shelley.
Just another musician on the street trying to, make it in the music world. She was a kind girl, hard worker, had a great voice, walked with a limp. I know that too.
Shelley Bush had a congenital disability. She never spoke about it to me or pretty much anyone else, so I had to ask her mom, Shirley Bush, about it.
Shelley was born with her one leg. There was a muscle that was on the side of her leg instead of the back, so she couldn't really pick up her heel real good. They couldn't fix it. When I first found out about it, she was 6 weeks old, and they told me she probably never walk. And I said, oh yeah, she will. She'll walk.
Shelley's disability was visible when she walked, but Shelley never acknowledged it, and it was not public information. She went to great lengths to conceal it. Here's her longtime friend, Rod Jansen.
Last time I ever met her, Sheila would skip one sock on. They'd be like, what do you want sock? Well, my feet get cold at night. They'd be like, what job was?
Only one member of Shelley's band could recall a time when she addressed her walk head-on. One of her drummers, Amy Acklin.
Some just random person that was probably drunk and being belligerently rude and said, why do you walk funny? And Shelley, without skipping a beat, she goes, why do you walk funny?
But according to Shelley's mom, Shirley, it wasn't all that uncommon.
So many people would say, what happened to your leg? And she never let it bother her. She tried to hide it, but she couldn't. And she said, that's just the way God made me.
There was something else bassist Amanda McCoy noticed about Shelley when they first talked on the phone, before they met in person.
She kept, clearing her throat. And I'm thinking, does she have a cold?
Shelley also had Tourette's syndrome, a neurological disorder that causes sudden motor and vocal movements called tics. Shelley's bandmates Beth Garner and Mandy Shuker told me Shelley did her best to conceal her tics.
They were always there. She wouldn't do them in the car or anything. And just once we got in our hotel room, you could hear her a little bit down the hallway.
She never really wanted to room with anybody. I roomed with her a couple times, and I could see why. She just wanted her own space. She never talked about that stuff a lot, especially in that era. Anybody with a disability is just immediately dismissed.
I used to volunteer at a camp for people with disabilities called Association of Horizon, and as an aside, it's my favorite thing ever, and someday, if I have loads of money, I'm giving it to them. My own parents met at a Muscular Dystrophy Association camp in the 80s. I grew up lifting power wheelchairs onto my parents' porch in a Chicago suburb and sitting with friends in the handicap section of Wrigley Field for Chicago Cubs games. Stephen E. Brown, the co-founder of the Institute on Disability Culture, wrote an article in 2002 for a journal called Disability Studies Quarterly. In it, he explains, people with disabilities have forged a group identity. We share a common history of oppression and a common bond of resilience. We generate art, music, literature, and other expressions of our lives, our culture, infused from our experience of disability. Most importantly, we are proud of ourselves as people with disabilities. We claim our disabilities with pride as part of our identity. We are who we are. We are people with disabilities. Society is constructed in a way that isolates disabled people. But my disabled friends growing up in Chicago shared a disability culture that Shelley didn't or couldn't access. What was valued in Stover, Missouri, like a lot of rural towns, was self-reliance and keeping your head down, not being proud of what makes you different. And there weren't, and still aren't, disabled country stars for Shelley to have been inspired by. She wanted to be seen as a capable and strong performer. And as Amanda said, to Shelley, that meant keeping her disabilities as private as possible.
She didn't want anyone to know. I think she would have, even today, as different as it is, she wouldn't have admitted it.
No.
Like, we'd be kidding ourselves saying, like, oh, such an inclusive nature today. No, Shelley wouldn't have admitted shit.
I'm not naive enough to think that Shelley would have had an easier path had she been open about her disabilities. And I'm not even saying that I wish she acknowledged them. She might not have wanted to. I just wish that she had lived in a world where she had a choice in the matter.
But until my heart tells me so, I ain't letting go. Until my heart tells me so, I ain't letting go. I ain't letting go.
When I sat down with Shelley's longtime drummer, Karen D., she put it plain and simple.
It's difficult, this life, when you're different. You know that. I know that.
Yeah.
Shelley knew that.
What my hero is referring to here, dear listener, is that Karen and I are gay. And not only are we gay, we are full-blown butches. The kind of people who get stopped on our way to airport bathrooms and are told the men's room is down the hall. A proud legacy of resilience and flannel, and a poor track record of success in country music. So if Shelley wasn't going to talk about her disability, fine. It wasn't the only thing we weren't talking about.
It's a little bit tacky, sorta kinda wacky, the way that we hem and we haw. One day we're all about it, then we're dancing all around it. Beats all I ever saw. We're on again.
Shelley went out of her way to avoid singing about homosexuality. I remember when the song Honeybee by Blake Shelton came out. The chorus goes, "You'll be my soft and sweet, I'll be your strong and steady." Shelley would arrange the U's and the I's in that song so that no one would think Shelley was looking for someone soft and sweet. As an aside, this made singing the background vocals on that song extremely difficult. Sometimes Shelley would creatively reinterpret lyrics to avoid even the slightest impression of impropriety. I talked about it a little with Mandy Shuker.
In Toes by Zac Brown Band, she said, "Gonna lay in the hot sun and get me a sunburn." And I don't know if that's because she forgot it or because she
No, that's definitely because she didn't want to say "roll me a fat."
didn't want to sing about marijuana.
Because she would make up in Chicken Fried, instead of "see the love in my woman's eyes," she would say "see the love in my dad's eyes." I said, Shelley, why don't you just say like "see the love in my lover's eyes" or "see the love in my man's eyes"? I mean, like, why dad?
Whether she talked about it or not, Shelley knew she was different, and bassist Don Ritchie knew exactly what Shelley was up against.
The reality is that's not what is on CMT, you know? They want young, they want perfect, and she wasn't that.
Anyone who moves to Nashville to try and make it has felt the pressure to conform to unrealistic standards of beauty. And the pressure is especially strong on women, according to Shelley's guitarist Beth Garner.
Back in the day, it's Dolly Parton, it's Emmylou Harris, it's Loretta Lynn, it's gorgeous women. And then guys that look like Porter Wagner, okay? And they're not good-looking men, but they're still sexy, you know? There's a difference. But the women had to be gorgeous. They had to look like Dolly Parton. Today, Jelly Roll. Do we have any women that resemble Jelly Roll in country music? No, we still don't.
I had a great conversation about this with guitarist Paula Jo Taylor, too. She talked about the flaws men in country music are allowed to have, but for women,
you can't when it comes to the female country scene. You know what I'm saying? Boy, they better get all the Botox and look as young as they can.
Shelley knew the music industry wasn't going to cut her any slack if she didn't fit the look.
She's very, very fashionable. And we used to laugh because we would get to places like Vegas especially. And she's got all these suitcases, looks like a train. They're all hooked up and she's yanking them across the airport.
Shelley owned a whole lot of clothes. Racks and racks of stuff from fashion-forward stores like Express and Rue 21. She wanted to have the latest and greatest stuff, and Rod told me she never left home without options.
I think the first time I ever met Shell, I gave her a ride to the airport. She had these 2 suitcases full of shoes for 3 days. I mean, like, I didn't really know where that got them. I was like, all right, I'll load that up for you.
Even Shelley's mom, Shirley, who definitely believed in looking put together when one left the house, was a little baffled at the volume.
She liked fancy boots and fancy clothes and stuff. And I'd say, Shelley, why you buy all those clothes for? She said, well, I can't wear the same clothes twice.
She even had a special shower rod type thing that she hung up in the van so her nice clothes didn't get squished in a suitcase. Drummer Amy Ackland remembered one time it just couldn't handle the load.
She had like 8,000 pieces of clothing on the hanger, that little hanger thing she'd bring, and so she went to open the door and like they all just fell out. And her clothes are on the dirt, the gravel, and she just goes, fuck this whole day! Fuck this whole day!
Little was more important than making sure Shelley's clothes came on the road, which sometimes meant that less important things got left behind. Mandy Shuker told me about a time they got to a gig and drummer Amy Ackland began setting up her drum kit when Mandy noticed something was missing.
Amy sets up her full kit and she doesn't have a floor tom. And I was just kind of looking around for it because why would you just not have a floor tom, right?
The floor tom is a large cylindrical drum that sits on the floor and makes a resonant boom sound, perfect for the last note of a flourish from the drums. It's a big part of the sound of modern country drumming.
And she just like deadpan is like, oh yeah, Shelley made me leave it in Nashville because her second suitcase wouldn't fit in the car. So it was my floor tom or her second suitcase for this 2-night gig.
That's right. They left one of the drums back in Nashville so Shelley could bring her 2 suitcases.
And so all night, Amy would phantom hit this drum and just make the noise with her mouth.
These were the kinds of things that sent Karen D over the edge.
Yeah, you're doing a one-nighter and she brings 3 suitcases. Just hang up a shirt.
Shelley's relentless focus on her image created pressure on the other members of Broadband, especially Paula Jo Taylor. Paula Jo had a whole career in Indiana. Her dad had a successful band and a TV variety show in Fort Wayne, Indiana, called The Jo Taylor Showcase. There's some awesome YouTube videos of Paula Jo playing on the show. Her children were grown, and she had a grandkid on the way when she first got the call from Shelley.
I had to try to be younger. I had to try to look thinner. I had to struggle because I was part of a Broadband, okay? And I had to not look like I was 48, 49, 50 years old when everybody else is 35.
This was especially true when it came time to have new press photos taken for Broadband, one of which Amanda McCoy was involved with.
Man, it looked like one of those Sears photo shoots where there was like a lot of props and boas and wigs. It was in this lady's basement.
I had an experience like this early in my career. If you ran into me today and had to describe my style, the word girl would probably not come up. I'm decidedly masculine of center, preferring straight-leg jeans, desert boots, and white t-shirts for my everyday wear. I had top surgery in 2019 and have a nice aerodynamic silhouette. I still end up in the occasional all-girl project, I suppose because I have the requisite plumbing, not to mention my pretty good high background vocals. But the reality is, that doesn't really jibe with my gender presentation. Early in my career, I was still kind of figuring all that out. I still had boobs and I hadn't cut my hair yet. I remember the first all-girl band I was in, before Broadband. I was really good friends with the fiddle player and I often shared clothes with her. When she would wear them, she would get compliments on how pretty she looked. Then I would wear them and I would get critiqued on how I could doll it up with just a little more makeup or jewelry. We did a promotional photo shoot and they hired a stylist and a makeup artist to wrangle me into a look they thought the music business would accept. Turns out you can put me in whatever you want. Doesn't matter if it's a lacy blouse or a potato sack. I'm still my butch self underneath. When I look back at those photos today, I look like someone doing drag for the first time. It's just not a convincing illusion.
I remember, taking the photos. It was all very fun, well and good. And getting the photos back and my fucking teeth were perfect. It was so photoshopped. My teeth were perfectly straight and they were like Paula Deen white. And I'm like, why did she fix my teeth up?
Shelley had a disability, the drummer was a big old dyke, and the guitarist was a grandma. It was nothing a little Photoshop couldn't fix as far as Shelley was concerned. However, it did mean that once in a while, local promoters who booked Broadband thinking they were getting a band full of young hotties were a little surprised when the real broads rolled out of the van. This dynamic led to an especially legendary Broadband gig in Vegas in 2013, when Shelley hired a dancer to join the band on stage. Dawn Ritchie gave me the scoop.
I was like 8 months pregnant. We were playing a gig in Las Vegas, and in the contract, she had to have like a 6-piece band or something like that.
I've heard a rumor that it was Shelley had sent such a young photo of that the promoter wanted a younger vibe. Is it? So it's not that.
That could be it too. That could be it. She just told me that they wanted a 6-piece band. See? She knows what to tell people. She's dumb as a fox.
Dumb as a fox. That's what Shelley was. I told Amanda about Dawn's version of the story.
Dawn said that it was because the promoter wanted a 6-piece band and they only brought a 5-piece. But I don't know.
I'll just say for the audio that Amanda has given me an epic eyebrow raise at that comment.
Karen D played drums that night.
But I'm the drummer, okay, and I'm, the dyke from hell already with the fedora and, not skinny mini. We're all not so young anymore. So Shelley, in her mind, decided that we needed more excitement on the stage and a younger, someone hip-looking, And so she hires this dancer, and this girl shows up. And I mean, she is a knockout. She is hot.
Rather than try to find another musician, she found a dancer. Melanie, I believe the girl's name was. We're playing our music and Melanie's just dancing with the, half naked. And Shelley goes to the crowd. She's like, all right, everyone, give it up for Karen D on the drums. And everyone goes, give it up for Paula Joe on the guitar. Give it up for Melanie. Wow! Just the crowd roar.
I asked Karen D if Shelley manufactured the need to get a hotter girl or if it was necessary to keep the gig.
I don't think it was necessary.
Yeah.
Now, I think some of the younger guys in the crowd certainly enjoyed it. But for everybody else, it was like, oh, okay, well, that's interesting.
There's a spectacular video of this on Paula Joe's Facebook page. There's Broadband doing their thing, playing Better Dig 2 by the band Perry, and then it pans over to the right side of the stage where someone in what I can only describe as a shortcut dirndl, like a sexy version of a St. Pauli girl dress, is doing a sultry dance and wearing a cowboy hat. Paula Joe is next to her, being the absolute legend that she is, simultaneously shredding lead guitar and chuckling to herself. This was years before Instagram influencers, but Shelley put quite a bit of effort towards curating her and the band's image. Amanda showed me a photo of Shelley posing in front of a shiny tour bus backstage at a festival, beaming with a smile.
And it's like, this ain't my tour bus, but take my picture. People were like, oh my God, Shelley. And she would never say it wasn't hers.
Shelley ensured that a cursory glance at Broadband on the internet revealed a bunch of sexy, successful musicians with a packed schedule of appearances.
And I do think it is to have the illusion. Most of the time, no one's going to look into the shows that you're playing. Shelley's just going to tell people, I played X amount of gigs this month or this year.
Even if it meant stretching the truth a bit.
And shitbird.
By the way, shitbird is what Karen D calls all of us younger Broadband members. I think I'm shitbird 45. In this case, Karen is referring to whatever number shitbird a fiddle player named Iva Lee is.
She almost had a nervous breakdown because she hadn't done many gigs with us. And Shelley sold this whole package of, we're opening for Rascal Flatts. Well, we played at 1 and they played at 9. But, okay, but when Shitbird figured out that was the deal, she melted down.
We're opening for Rascal Flatts. And everyone's like, sweet, at 10 a.m., Shelley. No, we're not. Like, stop telling people that.
Shelley was navigating a competitive landscape. she had to sound the best, be the best, and look the best to keep getting gigs. And in a reflection of these intense pressures, she sometimes prioritized musicians who fit the industry's conventional standards of attractiveness.
Karen's feelings were hurt a couple times because Shelley would use certain pictures or leave her out of things. And Karen was like, it's literally because of how I look and how I present.
Well, when Anita came into town, there went Karen D. When Beth Garner came into town, there went Paula Joe.
Beth knew she was getting hired for gigs that otherwise would have gone to Paula Joe.
I remember Paula Joe getting really pissed off because, Shelley wanted to use me right away.
I look up to Paula Joe a lot. A breast cancer survivor who fashioned a custom double guitar strap so she could still play guitar after her mastectomy, Paula Joe is always professional, a great band leader, and super entertaining. I didn't want to reopen an old wound, but this is real life, and I wanted to know how she saw all this business with Shelley's band members.
She had a lot of people I know probably that were backing her, that gave her financial backing and stuff as well, and they put a lot of pressure on you, and that's no different than a record label or anybody else, okay? But does that hurt? Of course it does. You give your all. I mean, the only reason that you're replaced or jumped on by somebody else is because they're young and they got a good body and they're hot, and it doesn't mean they were necessarily a more fabulous guitar player than you were. It was because of what they look like. But you know what? That's the name of the game in entertainment. I mean, boy, have I learned that over the years. It does a real skill set. It's a young man's town. And it is all about looks, more so now than ever.
That's the uncomfortable reality of being in the music business. Everyone deals with it, but it disproportionately affects people who don't fit the shiny, airbrushed image of what a star should look like. And when you're trying to push your career to the next level, those pressures pile on. If you could just get a little more money, you could get in front of a few more eyeballs, and you don't want those people to see you and your band as anything other than the full package. That is where one Garnet Douglas comes into our story.
I play with girls to this very day, and there's always some guy from some town that always shows up to see. It's none of my business, whatever, right? I don't ask too many questions, but that's just part of the business, really, in a weird way. You're never going to see that not happen.
There's always a benefactor. You need them. You got to have somebody like that. You have to have somebody that supports you, is your cheerleader, bankrolls a few things, and believes in you. You have to have somebody like that. We love Garnet. You gotta have that rich old man that bad.
Garnet was not the first rich old man back there for Shelley.
She always had guys that were willing to give her money too, and kind of old guys.
But he was the most important one.
I mean, she was only like about a $450,000 investment that I would get mine. If all we had to do was get one song and get to the right place, it'd all been worth it.
Garnet made his fortune selling a type of shiplap to Home Depot that was much easier to build with than traditional shiplap. He now owns a ton of property in Missouri and hangs out with his dog Allie watching the hummingbird feeder on his porch. Retirement looks good on Garnet, but 2005 was a very different time for him.
My wife died in February, and I'd be home on weekends, and we'd sit at the bar at one of the casinos in Tunica and talk about my company's worse than your company all weekend long and play video poker.
Shelley happened to be performing during one of Garnet's many trips to Tunica. She and Garnet struck up a conversation, and he made plans to come back the next time Shelley was playing. Amanda told me that bit by bit, Garnet started turning up at a whole lot of broadband shows.
Then when we did gigs in like Lula, Mississippi, and Garnet would just show up to these gigs way away from where he's from.
Eventually, Shelley and Garnet got to be pretty close. Garnet started helping Broadband get hotel rooms when the venues wouldn't put them up, and Shelley would call him after long drives to make sure he knew the band got home okay.
She had started already, called me the evening to see how I was doing. Lynn had been gone about 6 months or so, and I still miss her every day to day, so I wasn't always all right. And that started a process of her calling me every day and checking on me.
Shelley would call to check on Garnet, and Garnet would call to check on Shelley. They were really there for each other. Exactly how close Shelley and Garnet became was occasionally the subject of speculation, according to bartender and singer Emily Peck.
I thought maybe there was a little something happening, maybe there wasn't. They were clearly very, very close. And whether or not that was in more of a romantic way or not, I think they had a very special relationship.
Her boyfriends all thought there was something going on between her and I. And they didn't like me at all. But there was not. She was like my baby doll.
Shelley often confided in bassist Dawn Ritchie, and she definitely would have told Dawn if there was something going on between her and Garnet.
He was a financier, but they had a nice relationship, you know? But it seemed really more of a friendship to me.
And as Amanda McCoy pointed out for me, you don't have to be in a romantic relationship to love someone.
I think Shelley loved Garnet. I really do.
All of this made me wonder how Garnet himself would characterize his relationship with Shelley. So I asked him.
We were good friends. I guess executive producer, because that's me who pays the bills.
And pay the bills he did. Garnet financed 7 albums for Shelley, and they are professional, high-quality products. He paid the Full Moon Saloon to open earlier in the day so Broadband could have a place to practice and learn new music.
I would guarantee a certain amount. Sometimes I didn't have to pay anything. Sometimes I did.
He bought Shelley clothes.
We did lots of shopping. I told her dad and mom one time, I said, this house is going to settle down in the basement or on the ground. It's going to sink if she puts anything else in those closets. I knew wherever Route 21, there was a casino from Las Vegas to the Gulf Coast.
Knowing every Route 21 from Vegas to the Gulf Coast, he bought clothes for Shelley and for other members of Broadband like Mandy Shuker.
He bought me clothes to wear on stage because I didn't have anything that Shelley deemed suitable.
Garnet himself is a sharp-dressed guy. He always looks like he's going to an important meeting. Dawn told me this sometimes made him stand out among the crowd at Shelley's gigs, including a memorable trip to the world's largest motorcycle rally in Sturgis, South Dakota.
He stays the first night, and the next day we're playing poolside at Broken Spoke, I think it was. And he sees these 2 girls jump in the pool naked. And he says, I think I'm going to stay a couple more days.
Amanda McCoy was playing guitar on that trip.
I remember towards the end of that trip that Garnet was on, he was wearing less clothes. He would come out in shorts and the shirt would be unbuttoned to here. He was definitely cutting loose a bit. I remember playing outside by the pool. God, the debauchery that was happening in that pool, none of us swam in it. We're all smart enough to not do that, which was very good.
Whether out on the road or on the phone, Shelley's best friend Brenda Nolting said Garnet was a constant presence in the lives of the members of Broadband.
He was almost like their guardian angel of the Broadband.
Mandy Shuker told me Garnet took care of them like they were his daughters.
He took care of me when I first moved to town. I didn't have anything. He co-signed for my first apartment. He paid for my doctor bills when I fell and sprained my knee and stuff. He took care of all of us.
Garnet's help with Shelley's albums and all the investments he made in Broadband were in service of one singular goal.
She was so seeking out a record deal. She was seeking out a traditional type of, I've made it, I have a record deal.
Shelley Bush was a record deal-seeking missile. She was going to be a star, and she would stop at nothing to get her foot in the door. She was all over town making contacts, recording good albums, dropping off demos.
She was able to get meetings with these reputable guys.
Those meetings Dawn is talking about, you don't get them by accident.
She goes, I'm singing at the Palace tonight or something, and I've got a couple people coming out to see me sing. And I remember going over there, and I look over, and she's got Buddy Cannon and Nora Wilson over there. I mean, I don't even know how I would get a meeting with those guys.
That's Buddy Cannon, who has 3 Grammys and is known for his work with Willie Nelson and Kenny Chesney. Nora Wilson has written hit songs for dozens of people, including George Jones and Charlie Pride. There was attorney Dick Frank and producer Clyde Brooks, top-tier Music Row veterans. How did Shelley get them to come to her bar gig?
Tenacious. If there was one word to describe Shelley, it would be tenacious.
I think one of her first projects was produced by Barry Beckett, who has produced all kinds of hit records in this town, you know? It doesn't get any bigger than that, producer-wise.
Barry Beckett was a legendary Muscle Shoals keyboardist, with production credits on records by Lorrie Morgan, Hank Williams Jr., and Shelley's favorite band, Alabama.
She recorded at Kenny Royster's place all the time.
Kenny Royster made demos for Craig Morgan, Trick Pony, Lone Star, Randy Houser, and Cole Swindell.
She was always doing writing sessions and recording, and Kenny's a great producer. I think she really wanted to go the artist route, but was just ignored and told no constantly.
But as we know, and drummer Amy Ackland reminded me, getting a no didn't change Shelley's game plan.
You told her no, it would amp her up even more to get a yes out of you. This was like bulldog like that.
She would be down in Music Row a lot, try to find, publishers and, go through catalogs. The steps that you still take to this day. She did everything right, she was taking all the right steps.
All the right steps. One foot in front of the other. That was how Shelley always navigated the challenges that came up in her career. From the pressures of the music industry to finding financial partners to turn her dream into a reality. And one foot in front of the other is all well and good unless you're headed for a cliff. In the next episode, a new battle unfolds for Shelley, one that would put her legendary strength and determination to the test.
I'm a girl in a hurry, so make up your mind. If you don't know what you want, I'll leave you behind. Life's too short and there's no time to worry. If you're gonna break my heart, make it fast. I'm a girl in a hurry. I'm a girl in a hurry. A girl in a hurry.
Girl in a Hurry, the Shelley Bush story, was made possible by Whippoorwill Arts and We Own This Town. Special thanks to Karen Pittleman and Michael Eads.